Hello, everyone. Welcome to the lecture on the political thought of John Stuart Mill. And to understand him in an encapsulated way, just look at this quote. The worth of a state in the long run is the worth of individuals that compose it. So it means John Stuart Mill had extended a full-hearted support to the individuals. और यहाँ पे individuals means their lives, their liberty, their property, their happiness. So he was keen on supporting individual in their best possible way. क्योंकि एक तरह से सही भी है that it is the individual that make the state. State does not make individuals. So the worth of any state, any national government will be the worth of the individual that compose it. If individual are highly qualified, if individual are reasonable, if individual are virtuous, if individuals possess good qualities, then the state will be strong and solid. Fair John Stuart Mill was an influential thinker and a committed social reformer who wanted to change the life of people through reason and justice. Then he lived during the Industrial Revolution. Industrial Revolution, the time when many many factory unit got established in many European economies, और उसके साथ ही came rapid economic change. जो agrarian lifestyle है वो पूरा का पूरा ढांचा change हो गया. The people they had to work now for 16 hours. बच्चे भी काम कर रहे थे. फिर जो ओल्ड अग्रेरियन सिस्टम जो था, जो फ्यूडल सिस्टम था, वो सब डिसमेंटल हो गया. एंड नाउ उसके साथ बहुत सारे न्यू पॉलिटिकल आइडियाज भी आए, कंज्यूमर कल्चर भी आया, लेकिन साथ में पोल्यूशन भी हुआ, सोशल इकोनॉमिक इनइक्वालिटीज भी बढ़ गई. सो उस है ना अपहीवल के टाइम पे द मिल लिव्ड, and he was the son of James Mill, and James Mill was a close associate of Jeremy Bentham. And Jeremy Bentham provided the utilitarian philosophy. And utilitarian philosophy, which means greatest happiness for the greatest numbers. So it was the idea, the political idea that worked in those times when people did not have that diverse choices. उनको basic मिल जाए वही बहुत है. So उस टाइम पे ये philosophy work quite well. अगर आपको ये फिलॉसफी समझनी है, जस्ट इमेजिन यू आर लिविंग इन एन इंडस्ट्रियल सोसाइटी. आपको सुबह जो हॉर्न बजता है उस टाइम से आपको यू हैव टू स्टार्ट वर्किंग. देन फिर जब भी वो उसकी शिफ्ट ओवर होती है, देन यू माइट बी एंगेज इन ओवर टाइम. तो किसी तरह का कोई सोशल सिक्योरिटी नेट, सोशल सेफ्टी, वेकेशंस, लाइफ ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. बस यू हैव टू एंगेज योर सेल्फ लाइक एन एनिमल टू अर्न अ लिविंग. और उस सोसाइटी में all they craved was earning us a decent income. And decent वो आज के टर्म में बहुत ही ज्यादा वेरी करता है. उस वक्त मीगर इनकम की बस जस्ट हैंड टू माउथ एग्जिस्टेंस के लिए कुछ मिल जाए, कुछ जेब में हो, बस उसके लिए लोग जो है 16 घंटे काम कर रहे थे. एंड ऑल द प्रॉफिट्स दे वर बीइंग एक्यूमुलेटेड बाय द ओनर्स ऑफ दोज इकोनॉमिक यूनिट्स, ओनर्स ऑफ दोज मैन्युफैक्चरिंग यूनिट्स. So ऐसे में Jeremy Bentham provided this idea, this political idea, that any organization, any political organization, it should think in that way that its decision, its devolution of fund, its implementation, all should work for greatest number of people. So that's what utilitarian principle was. And पहले James Mill, because of his father, he was also a follower of this utilitarian philosophy. But later on, he refined and humanized it. So how did Mill humanize it? So unlike Bentham, who cared about the number, the numerical strength, the majority, Mill placed great importance on individual freedom, moral and emotional development. So in one way or another, Bentham was the advocate of the industrial society of that time, industrial revolution and its society of that time, कि लोगों को बस जब जीने के लिए कुछ ना कुछ चाहिए. If they are living solely for earning something, they do not have any idea of life per se. लोगों को पता ही नहीं था कि एस्थेटिक क्या होता है, लोगों को पता ही नहीं कि लाइफ जीनी कैसे होती है. बस उनके दिमाग में यही था कि जैसे सब कर रहे हैं 16 hours work, no life, no food, just keep earning your share. That's what life was at that time. So पैंथम का आइडिया मेजोरिटी के पर्सपेक्टिव से था, बट James Mill, he thought in another way, that he thought in individual perspective, कि no, it's not the usual life that we should seek. It's not this aura that this sheep chase, this herd mentality that we should follow. We need to think about ourselves, क्योंकि हम में से हर एक जो है, we are not animals, we are humans, we have our freedom, we have our moral and spiritual development, we have our emotional development, and the women, the better half, they should not be left in the queue. So ये जितने भी आइडिया थे, जो रिवोल्यूशनरी आइडियाज थे, ये मिल ने उस वक्त दिए, एंड दैट्स हाउ ही रिफाइन एंड ह्यूमनाइज the utilitarian philosophy of Jeremy Bentham. फिर Mill believed कि people should be free to express themselves and live according to their own values as long as they do not harm others, जो हम harm principle में देखेंगे. But ultimately, जब भी आप सोचे, you must keep the industrial revolution in the back of your mind, कि उस वक्त all of most of the people, they were following this herd mentality. Live till you die. No life at all, no aesthetic value, no expression, no individual freedom, no moral or spiritual development, nothing. But उस वक्त स्टुअर्ट मिल ने जब ये चीज देखी, तब उसने कहा कि नो, दिस नॉट द वे वी शुड लिव. We are humans, we have our human values, and we have our freedom, and we should cherish it. Fair, the major works on liberty, utilitarianism, and the subjection of women, they are continue to widely read and studied today. Fair, let's move on to the harm principle, defining the limits of liberty. Now, harm principle was his famous and influential idea which he introduced in his work on liberty, and by which he meant the only freedom which deserved the name is that of pursuing our own good in our own way, so long as we do not attempt to deprive others of theirs. So this quote again, it encapsulates the thinking, the gist of this harm principle. So ये इसका आइडिया ये है, we should live on our own terms, our own conditions. हमारी खुद की जिंदगी है, हमारे तरीके से जिएंगे, but we should not harm anybody else. If you have liberty, then you need to care about the liberty of others. So this harm principle is the limit about the freedom that you can enjoy. That's why the name, the limits of liberty. Fair, in simple terms, it means that every individual should be free to make their own choices, to live on their own terms, but they should not cause any harm to other people. फिर ये भी आता है कि what does this word harm involve? So this harm means real and measurable damage, like physical injury, financial loss, or threats to someone's safety. Someone that is tangible, someone that is measurable, and something that is grave. So if those criteria are met, then that damage will be called real harm. So ये जो idea है, it stands differentiated from mere disagreement या social disapproval या personal offense. So अगेन द मीनिंग यही है कि हार्म की बात करें, हार्म प्रिंसिपल की बात करें, तो हार्म जो है, इट शुड बी रियल एंड मेजरेबल डैमेज, समथिंग दैट इज ग्रेव. सिर्फ डिसएग्रीमेंट या सोशल डिसअप्रूवल या सिर्फ मॉकरी से वी कैन नॉट स्टॉप समवन फ्रॉम एक्टिंग फ्रीली. फिर मिल वाज डीपली कंसर्न अबाउट द tyranny of the majority. Tyranny of the majority means if the utilitarian principle of Jeremy Bentham, if it is act in totality, then this will lead to the accumulation of power in the hands of few. So ऐसे में the minority voices should not be silenced. where this harm principle, it acts as a shield for personal liberty, it limit for personal liberty, which which puts in check on overreach for everything. कोई भी, चाहे गवर्नमेंट हो, चाहे सोसाइटी हो, चाहे इंडिविजुअल हो, nothing can overreach this limit that has been set by the harm principle. फिर this principle, it has become cornerstone of modern liberal democratic thought. जो आज भी हम लोग ये चीज रियलाइज करते हैं, समझते हैं कि यस, दिस थिंग, दिस हार्म प्रिंसिपल, इट स्टिल स्टैंड्स ट्रू इन दिस कंटेम्पररी टाइम, कि हमारे पास हमारी लाइफ है, हमारी choices हैं, we have our freedom of speech, we have our freedom of expression, religion, personal choices, and then we also believe that कि हमारी choices में कोई interfere ना करे, और second ये है कि हमारी choices जो हैं, it does not, they do not overreach the freedom or liberty of others. Now his second idea, freedom of thought and expression. तो अगर liberty की बात करेंगे, then we will come up to this belief in freedom of thought and expression. और एक free and democratic society के लिए freedom of thought and expression is necessary. So again, in his influential work on liberty, he argued that this freedom is not only basic individual right, but also social necessity for truth, knowledge, and human progress. So again, he thought, way ahead of his time, way ahead of his time, क्योंकि उसके आइडियाज जो हैं आज भी एप्लीकेबल है. आज भी हम सोचते हैं कि अगर फ्रीडम नहीं देंगे तो the brain, the mind will not be free. If mind will not be free, then the thoughts will not be free. If thoughts will not be free, then nothing innovative will happen. And if thoughts are engaged in a falsifiable act, then the truth will remain shadowed. And the next thing that will be hammered out is knowledge. क्योंकि if thoughts are suppressed, then the knowledge will also be manipulated. फिर जो भी हमारे पास है, we will never know if it is the truth. जैसे आज डिक्टेटरशिप में होता है, जो कम्युनिस्ट कंट्रीज है उनके अंदर होता है कि जो लोगों को पता ही नहीं है कि असल में जो उनके पास जो इंफॉर्मेशन आ रही है, बिकॉज उनकी गवर्नमेंट जो है क्लोज लूप में रहती है, तो उनको पता ही नहीं है कि जो उनके पास आ रहा है इफ इट इज ट्रू. और यही जो है प्रीरेक्विसाइट्स हैं फॉर अ फ्री एंड डेमोक्रेटिक सोसाइटी, एंड ओनली अ फ्री एंड डेमोक्रेटिक सोसाइटी कैन प्रोग्रेस. ये आप इतना समझ लीजिए. इवन इफ democracy and freedom both are chaotic, but it is the chaos that give birth to innovations. It is the chaos that give ways to the adaptation, that give ways to the inventions. जो सोबराइटी के अंदर या पीस के अंदर इनोवेशंस नहीं होते. It is the friction, it is the chaos, it is the pressure, that stress that brings out the best out of human. और वो सब जो है ये क्लोज सोसाइटी के अंदर, अनडेमोक्रेटिक सोसाइटी के अंदर नहीं हो सकता. सो अल्टीमेटली फ्रीडम ऑफ थॉट एंड एक्सप्रेशन इज वेरी मच नेसेसरी. क्योंकि फ्रीडम ऑफ थॉट दे दिया तो देन थॉट्स हैव दैट inherent power in themselves. It's like, you building a bubbles of pressure, and if you do not vent it out, it will burst on its own. ये जैसे बबल क्रिएट होता है, तो बबल जो होता है एक लिमिट होती है उसे क्रिएट होने की, देन इट विल बर्स्ट. तो वैसे ही माइंड के अंदर आइडियाज हैं. आइडियाज एक टाइम तक दे विल कीप बिल्डिंग अप, बट अल्टीमेटली इफ उनको अगर एक वेंट नहीं मिला, एक आउटलेट नहीं मिला, तो दे विल बर्स्ट. वो अल्टीमेटली बाहर आने ही है. सो दे विल गेट एक्सप्रेस इवन इफ यू ट्राई टू सप्रेस देम. देन यहाँ पे एक और चीज, व्हाई डिड ही एडवोकेट फॉर द फ्रीडम ऑफ इंडिविजुअल? Because Mill believed that every single opinion, it matters. Then if you suppress even a single minor opinion, if you hush up that opinion, then it will harm everyone. Not only the voice, not only the person whose voice is silenced, but this hushed up opinion, this silenced or suppressed opinion will harm the whole society. Then he provided three arguments. He extended three arguments why individual idea, why every idea deserve to be heard. So first, the suppressed idea might be true. So the world, it is like, a blind game of, huge tunnel. उसमें हमें नहीं पता है कि सोल ट्रुथ क्या है. लाइक हम साइंस में बिलीव करते हैं, हम अपने जो फैमिली ट्रेडिशंस हैं उनको भी बिलीव करते हैं, जो गुरुज हैं उनको उनमें भी बिलीव करते हैं, जो एमिनेंट पर्सनालिटीज हैं, स्पीकर्स हैं, न्यूज़पेपर जो स्पोक्स पर्सन हैं उनमें बिलीव करते हैं, गवर्नमेंट टीचर्स में बिलीव करते हैं, बट ऑल ऑफ देम दे होल्ड ओनली एन आयोटा ऑफ ट्रुथ. Each one of us, we have only a single iota. We have an idea of truth that is equal to an iota. Iota means very small, very very small. क्योंकि the world, it is quite big. It's way bigger than we can imagine. Just imagine, they are 10 to the power 121 stars in the sky. 120 121 star, it means, मैं just आपको ये बताऊं, 10 to power 6, it means 1 followed by 6 zeros. Now you can imagine 1 raised to power 121 means 1 followed by 121 zeros. और उतने स्टार्स हैं. एवरी स्टार, जैसे जो हमारा स्टार है द सन, इट इज अराउंड 300 times बिगर देन आवर अर्थ. और हर स्टार के पास, इट हैज द पावर, it has the light, it has the heat, it has the energy to give way to the life, to generate life, to give birth to life. So now you can imagine how big the universe is. Then that's just an iota of truth. We do not know if the universe we are in is the only universe. Like जिस universe में हम रह रहे हैं उसमें 10 is to power 121 stars हैं. But we do not know if the universe we are living, ये भी किसी एक bigger system के अंदर ये भी एक स्टार हो, या ये भी एक प्लैनेट हो. सो वी डू नॉट नो कि ये टनल कहाँ तक जाती है. सो ये आप इस चीज से आप समझ सकते हैं कि जो ट्रुथ की हम बात करते हैं, हम कितना इनसिग्निफिकेंट हैं. एंड दैट्स व्हाई ही सेड that we should not suppress any idea, because that idea might be true. We do not know. And if we silence any idea, we may be preventing the discovery of truth. After all, history is full of examples where unpopular opinions like Galileo, abolitionist, Socrates, all of them, they turn out to be right. And even his idea, the idea of John Stuart Mill, they are also proving right in this contemporary time. जबकि उसने वो आइडियाज लिखे थे इंडस्ट्रियल रिवोल्यूशन में. एंड दैट्स व्हाई आई सेड ही वाज क्वाइट अहेड ऑफ हिज टाइम. फिर द सेकंड रीजन फॉरवर्डेड बाय हिम इन द सपोर्ट ऑफ any idea to be heard, because even if what one said is partly wrong, it may contain a portion of truth, it may be partially true. So the first reason that this idea may be true, it may be another version, another interpretation of truth, then that idea might be partially true. And even if that idea is completely false, then debating it sharpens our grasp of the truth. And this third one, it may seem that he was forwarding this idea that some ideas are usually false, but I do not buy it. Nobody buys it. No scientific band of mind will accept this thing. No idea is false, because if idea is generated, then that idea will contain the basic elements, the basic sentences, the basic terms from which this idea is born. So just जैसे बहुत सारे लोग, जैसे मैंने अभी कहा कि we might be living in a world, in a universe which might be a single dot in another super galaxy of universe, or ये super clusters of universes. So ऐसा भी हो सकता है, ये possibility है. फिर बहुत सारे ग्रुप जो हैं, ये भी कह सकते हैं कि नहीं, we are living in a universe which which has another mirror universe, और उस mirror universe का other mirror universe है. जैसे आज के टाइम में आप लोगों ने, पता नहीं, पर जब मैं बचपन में, जो बाल काटने की दुकान थी, जो बार्बर शॉप होती है, उसमें ऑपोजिट डायरेक्शन में मिरर लगे होते हैं. देन उन मिरर में आप देखेंगे, देन यू विल सी द ओवरलैपिंग पिक्चर, कि इस तरह से जो दैट मिरर इमेज ये क्रिएट होती जाती है. और सम गिव्स दिस आइडिया कि दो पैरेलल यूनिवर्स हैं, एंड देन उसी पैरेलल फॉर्म में इट्स लाइक टू मिरर्स फेसिंग ईच अदर, और उसमें फिर हम वी आर सीइंग द रिफ्लेक्शंस दैट इज गोइंग टू द इंफिनिटी. हो सकता. फिर कुछ लोग जो हैं, दे आर क्वाइट डिवाइन ओरिजिन ऑफ माइंड, और वो कहते हैं कि लॉर्ड जीसस created this universe 5200 years ago. Then this idea cannot be falsificated. We might not know what he is talking about, and he may have some other idea. Maybe the kind of idea that is associated with the divinity of Lord Jesus, it may have some other interpretation. It may have some other metaphor. ये आइडिया जो लॉर्ड जीसस ने जो वर्ल्ड क्रिएट किया, इट मे बी ए मेटाफर, इट मे रिप्रेजेंट समथिंग एल्स. सो वी कैन नॉट falsify any idea, and we cannot reject them. Ultimately, John Mill की बात पे आता है that no idea should be suppressed. फिर the peculiar evil of silencing the expression of an opinion is robbing the human race. So again, he was in support of listening to the idea, and or even if nobody is there to listen it, at least every idea should have the freedom to express it. बाकी कोई सुनने वाला हो, कोई पढ़ने वाला हो ना हो. So stopping free discussion like stealing knowledge from society, because every idea matters, and if you stop discussion, if you suppress it, then you are pushing the society backward, not the forward direction. Where this idea also holds immense value in diverse and pluralist society. So because in the pluralistic society, there are different shades of people who hold different values, different beliefs, different cultures, different ideas and outlooks of life. So in order for a peaceful coexistence and tolerable platform, tolerable view of life, you should provide space for open discussion. और फिर आज के टाइम में आप देख रहे हैं जो हेट स्पीच है, सेंसरशिप है, कैंपस फ्री स्पीच है, डिजिटल प्लेटफॉर्म है, all of them, they remind us that democracy, the chaotic democracy, it thrives on free exchange of ideas, and we should not suppress them. Now the third agenda is utilitarianism with a human face. So again, a background. John Stuart Mill's father, James Mill, was a close follower, close associate of Jeremy Bentham, and that's how Jeremy Bentham became the mentor of Mill, and that made John Stuart Mill adopt the utilitarianism of Jeremy Bentham. फिर यूटिलिटेरियनिज्म क्या है? द ग्रेटेस्ट हैप्पीनेस फॉर ग्रेटेस्ट नंबर. यानी कोई चीज, कोई आइडिया आप इंप्लीमेंट कर रहे हैं, तो कोई वेलफेयर प्रोग्राम आप इंप्लीमेंट कर रहे हैं, कोई लॉ आप बना रहे हैं, देन दिस thing, it should consider two part. First, the law, the action, the policy, the welfare program, the public fund devolution or the implementation, all of them, they should keep this in mind that ये चीज is for greatest happiness. Then the greatest happiness for not just a few but the greatest number. तो ज्यादा लोगों के लिए अगर वो चीज फायदेमंद है, then that idea should be implemented. So that was the idea, the ultimate gist of utilitarianism. And Bentham here, he treated all forms of pleasure as equal and focused mostly on their quantity. तो वो आप देख सकते हैं कि he saw the world in white and black terms. कि बहुत सारे लोग हैं, सबको दाना पानी चाहिए, then give them. ज्यादातर लोगों को अगर राशन पानी मिल रहा है, then they are happy. So that's the a crude explanation of his idea. And then he did not differentiate between other pleasures. अकॉर्डिंग टू हिम इट वाज वन साइज फिट्स ऑल, कि सभी लोगों को जो बेसिक चीजें हैं वही उनके प्लेजर्स हैं, एंड सब सब जो है वो इक्वल टर्म्स में डिमांड करते हैं, एंड व्हाट मैटर्स इज द क्वांटिटी, other aesthetic values does not matter. Now, Mill believed that this view was too narrow and mechanical. Mechanical देख सकते हैं because here they were measuring the human value, the life, the value of human life in terms of quantity, not the quality. So the much needed quality was brought in by the ideas of Mill, who argued that some pleasures are more valuable than others. So it is not just the amount, the quantity, the basic amenities that matter. There are many other things like mental or moral pleasures, aesthetic pleasure, sensory pleasures, spiritual pleasures. ये सब जो हैं, they are superior to purely physical, the bodily pleasures. तो अगेन ये आइडिया मैं आपको वापस समझाता हूँ कि फर्स्ट मिल he moved away from this narrow and mechanical definition of society that was based on quantity. He brought the quality in the picture, and उसने कहा है कि there are other pleasures like mental and moral pleasure, the spiritual pleasure, which are superior to the physical pleasures or the sensory pleasure like eating or drinking. So यहाँ पे मिल ने कहा है कि like reading a good book, engaging in philosophical thought, or growing emotionally, enjoying the aesthetic landscape, all of them, they hold more pleasure than this simple physical, this simple quantifiable or measurable pleasures. Then he wrote, it's better to be a human being dissatisfied than a pig satisfied. So ये आइडिया आप देख सकते हैं कि यहाँ पे he said, if you are human, then you hold some qualities. You are not just, not just an animal. You are not living for the sake of living. You are more than that. Then you have many sides that need to be fulfilled. It's not just the, empty stomach that need to be filled. It's not the, intimate pleasures that need to be met. There are other pleasures. You have some other moral and spiritual side that also need, some some attention. So if you are a human and you cannot fulfill all these desires, if you cannot fulfill the basic desires, and that makes you dissatisfied, so you are a lot better than a pig satisfied. A pig is the human version of an animal. तो यहाँ पे मिल ने कहा कि if you are living solely for your physical pleasures, then you are an animal. Physical pleasures. So you are an animal. You are a pig, and even if the fulfillment of your physical pleasure make you satisfied, you are lot worse than a human whose moral and spiritual pleasures are not fulfilled. फिर एक और intellectual side दी गई इसको कि it is better to be a Socrates dissatisfied than a fool satisfied. So again, a fool who would be happy having his physical needs met, his physical needs fulfilled, and after the fulfillment of those physical needs, a fool will feel satisfied. But that's just an animal existence. Whereas if you are a Socrates, a philosopher, a person who is seeking truth, and in that quest you have not achieved a lot of things, you have to compromise with the physical pleasures, but still you are engaged in some moral and spiritual pleasures, some higher pleasures, and even if that quest make you dissatisfied, you are a lot better than the animal that has satisfied itself. Then Mill believed that human beings they have higher faculties. Higher faculties means higher demands, higher needs, higher criteria that you need to be fulfilled in order to live a more richer and fulfilling life. Then here he introduced the distinction between higher and lower pleasures. For Unme, he refined utilitarianism in two ways. So first, he made utilitarianism more humanistic by recognizing that people have dignity, they have personal growth, they have creativity, they have, a quality side that needs attention. It's not the quantity that they want. The quality is there. They are there to cherish the freedom. They have their own moral stake. Then the second change made by him that he made room for individual rights and moral development. So इससे पहले जो बैंथम के आइडियाज में ऑल ऑफ द ह्यूमन सोसाइटी दे वर कंसिडर्ड एनिमल कि उनको कुछ नहीं चाहिए, घास पानी चाहिए, दाना पानी चाहिए, बेसिक चीजें, और वो उनको मिल जाए तो वो जी लेंगे. बाकी उनके अलावा दे डू नॉट हैव एनी सेंसेस, दे डू नॉट हैव एनी इमोशनल साइड, दे डू नॉट हैव एनी फीलिंग्स. और उसी बेसिस पे तो इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन चल रही थी कि 16 आवर्स अ डे आज के टाइम में कोई काम करता है 16 आवर्स अ डे इनटू इंफिनिटी टिल यू डाई. ये उस वक्त का सीन था. और उस वक्त सारे जो इंसान थे दे वर कंसिडर्ड एनिमल की नो फीलिंग, नो ह्यूमैनिटी, नो इंटेलेक्चुअल साइड, just food and keep working. That was it. But यहाँ पे Mill introduced, Mill brought the individual in picture. We are not the herd. We are a group of individual, or every individual matters. Every individual has an emotional and moral side, and here the happiness of everyone matters. And it is not just about pleasure, not just about the physical pleasure, but also about living in a unique way. Where his version of utilitarianism is often called the qualitative utilitarianism because it brought the quality into the picture, and it helped on the theory into more balanced and flexible ethical system. Then the fourth idea, gender justice. Then again, John Stuart Mill was far ahead of his time by his commitment to gender equality, and he was the earliest male philosopher to advocate for women's rights in both theories and politics. Where his major work, Subjection of Women, it remains a landmark text in feminist political thought. And his views were deeply influenced by Harriet Tyler Mill, and along with Harriet, his wife, and Mill, all of them they developed a critique of patriarchal structure that oppressed women. Where he argued that the inequality between men and women it was not natural, जो सभी feminists कहते हैं, but it is the condition, the result, the outcome of the conditioned patriarchy that made this thing systemic by denying women the education, legal rights, economic freedom and political voice. So यहाँ पे दो चीज जो important है वो ये है, first, the biological differences between men and women they do not equate to the moral and intellectual inferiority. दोनों बराबर है. But the women they were subjugated for such a long time by patriarchy, and this thing became systemic. Means पूरा skeletal है, पूरा structure है patriarchy का. ये हर एक सोसाइटी के अंदर it try to subjugate women. और वो कैसे होता है? By denying them the faculties that can lead women to earn a equal footing. अगर महिलाओं को शिक्षा मिल जाएगी, if they are given opportunities and independence, financial opportunities, legal, social, legal, political independence, वो सब मिल जाएंगी, ये political voice मिल जाएगी, तो they will they will stand equally, face to face, shoulder to shoulder with man. Where he wrote that women appear inferior only because they are systematically deprived of opportunities for development. ये सारी जितनी भी चीजें हैं, they are nothing but the faculties that can make women achieve the parity. So ये सब opportunities उनको मना कर दी गई, they were deprived of it. So उसकी वजह से women are still inferior. Otherwise biological inferiority नहीं है. फिर the family structure, the laws and custom from this time, or especially the time of industrial revolution, they were also designed to keep women in a state of legal and social bondage. और आज भी इंडिया में बहुत सारी जो सोसाइटी है उसमें भी जो वीमेन है, दे आर kept under this economic dependence bondage, कि उनको कुछ भी पैसा चाहिए उसमें वो डिपेंडेंट होती है जो मेल मेंबर के. सो ये चीजें आज भी हैं. फिर जैसे जो एक्सटर्नल स्लेवरी थी उसी तरह से पेट्रियार्की इट वाज अ फॉर्म ऑफ सोशल स्लेवरी. So that according to James Mill, this social slavery, it made women the slaves, the female side of slaves. And such system it was propagated not through justice or logic. क्योंकि logic की बात करेंगे then we cannot subjugate women at all. But this system it was propagated through tradition, prejudice and power. And जो next paragraph है, here Mill spoke similar to the words of Mary Wollstonecraft, जिस पे पिछला ही वीडियो बनाया था. So Mary Wollstonecraft ने भी यही कहा कि patriarchy it kicks itself in the wrong foot because it makes society lose half of its potential. अगर half of the society it is subjugated and locked away in their narrow domestic roles, then this locks away the 50% potential, which is not good for society at all. It is the waste of human talent and moral injustice. And फिर कि ये नहीं कि मिल ने सिर्फ बातें ही कही हैं, he also acted in this direction. He made a political action when he was a member of parliament in 1867, when he proposed that women should be granted the right to vote. और उस टाइम पे 1867 में रेवोल्यूशनरी आइडिया, उस टाइम पे किसी महिला को राइट टू वोट था ही नहीं, है ना. फ्रेंचाइजी या फिर क्या क्या कह सकते हैं, वोटिंग राइट्स थे नहीं. बट यहाँ उस वक्त पे ऐसा कहना सोसाइटी में इट वाज क्वाइट रेवोल्यूशनरी. Even though this proposal was defeated, but then it became a catalyst for later suffragist movement. And then his demands included equal access to education and profession for women, the right to own property, legal recognition of women as independent persons, and full political rights including voting and representation. So यहाँ पे ये कह सकते हैं 1867 में जो मिल ने बात कही थी वो आज भी अचीवेबल नहीं है. आज भी जो वीमेन है दे आर केप्ट अंडर द शैडो ऑफ एन इल्यूजन about their safety, about their biological and intellectual inferiority. And in essence, he envisioned a society based on justice, merit and equality, where women are treated as full citizens. Where the next idea, liberty and the development of individuality. Liberty को लेकर जॉन स्टुअर्ट मिल का आइडिया was quite unique. इससे पहले जो कितने philosophers थे, nobody thought like this. According to him, freedom was not the ability to do whatever one wishes. It was about having the capacity to experiment, to experiment with one's life. यानी उस वक्त पे 1859 जब जिस टाइम पे ये वर्क लिखा गया था, उस टाइम पे मिल ने ये आइडिया दिया कि our liberty it does not mean that we should engage in free thought. It also means that we have the capacity, we have the freedom to take our life in any direction. We can make the choices, even if those choices seem odd or unpopular to others. We should have the freedom to experiment with ourselves. So that was quite an a unique, a pioneering idea. And here Mill believed that individuality is the essence of human development. We are individuals and each one of us We in ourselves, we as individual, we have some uniqueness which has been given to us by the very process that born us. We are individual, we are unique because we are human, and this thing, it will manifest when we experiment with our thoughts, just like Mill did with his expression. यहाँ पे भी ये idea 1859 में to forward such an idea, जब सारी की सारी society was working day and night to earn a living, all of them following herd mentality, and somebody out of a dread night, he wakes up and projects this idea that we are individual, we are unique, and we have the freedom to experiment with ourselves, to have the space to make our own choice. We can try our own life, no, own way of life. We can follow our own path, and even if those paths can be odd or unpopular, we should make the best use of our freedom. आज भी इवन 2025 में बहुत सारे लोग जो है दे कैन नॉट लिव इन अप टू दिस एक्सपेक्टेशन. आज भी बहुत सारी सोसाइटी है, इतने करोड़ों लोग जो हैं जो अपनी जिंदगी में जन्म से लेकर जब तक उनकी जवानी निकल जाती है, उन घर में पोते पोती हो जाते हैं, तब तक ही उनको समझ में नहीं आता है कि दैट एक्चुअल में लाइफ क्या है, एंड हैव वी एवर हैड द फ्रीडम. और यहाँ पे आज के इतने सालों पहले someone talk about experiment with our life. So ये भी एक uniqueness है. So this individuality, this essence was quite unique at the time. फिर इसके हिसाब इसका मतलब है according to Mill that we can become human, truly human, only by making choices. And when we make choices, we take risk. And when we take risk, then we will follow whatever comes in the way. And we will, learn from both success and failure. And for that, you have to make the choice. You should not follow the herd mentality. First, make the choice. And when you make the choice, you have to take the risk. You have to take the bait. And when you take the bait, you have to take the hits. Life will hit you. The society will hit you. You will face many obstacles. Life, if life's not going to be rosy, then you will have failures, but then you have to learn from them. Then after learning from failure, you will succeed on the steps of success. Then you have to learn from the success as well. So that's what individuality is. Then society should not force people to conform to majority view or social tradition. So this herd mentality, तो society के लिए एक ये है कि if you want the society to grow in multiple direction and grow manifold, then you should not make people, locked up in their own, your own echo chambers. Society में जो potential है, इसको lock मत करो. You should not stop people that make the choice and take the risk. You should allow it, because ultimately it is the humanity versus individual. और इन दोनों में if individual takes a risk, humanity is going to benefit. क्योंकि यही रिस्क है जिसकी वजह से आज ह्यूमैनिटी सरवाइव कर रही है. अगर रिस्क नहीं लिए होते तो आज हमें नहीं पता होता है कि which food are edible, how things work out, which tool are capable, which are not, which tools can kill a mammoth, which type of clothes, which type of hide can protect us from the cold and blistering ice ages. ये सब जो है रिस्क से ही हुआ है. So यहाँ भी society जो है it should stop itself from making people conform the majority view. Then the diversity of opinion, of character, lifestyle, it is not a threat to society, but a strength to society. It's like, having a mosaic, having people of different caliber, different taste, different opinion in a society. It will only strengthen the society. It is never going to make the society weak. But कुछ लोग जो हैं, they do not like this idea, just because it has an evolutionary precedent. क्योंकि people, they think in very narrow term, just आसपास का neighborhood, है ना, इन रिलेटिव्स, कि हमारे रिलेटिव में nobody should have these, higher thoughts, such thoughts of intellectual progress, क्योंकि अगर वो आगे बढ़ गया तो हमारा क्या होगा? Who will, come to our house? Who will, our prestige will go down. Such, bogus ideas are carried by, but यहाँ पे मिल के आइडियाज की ये तीनों जो है क्वाइट रेवोल्यूशनरी आइडियाज। देन अगेन, जैसा अभी कहा है कि लिबर्टी, द फ्रीडम ऑफ एक्सप्रेशन, इंडिविजुअलिटी, एक्सपेरिमेंट विद वन सेल्फ, जितने भी आइडियाज हैं, इट्स लाइक लिबर्टी इज द सेंट्रल पीटल एंड अराउंड विच all the central hub, and around which all the petals are have organized themselves, इसमें experiment with one's life, ठीक है, the making choices, decisions हो गए, risks हो गए, ठीक है, personal growth and moral and intellectual development हो गए, all जो जितना भी एक फ्लावर है, जितना ही मोज़ेक है, it is for both personal and societal development or advancement. सोसाइटी को इससे नुकसान नहीं होगा। ह्यूमैनिटी वर्सेस इंडिविजुअल, तो अगर इंडिविजुअल ग्रो करता है तो उससे पूरी ह्यूमैनिटी को बेनिफिट होगा। जैसे अगर जेम्स मिल ने ये आइडिया दिया है तो हम लोग उसको पढ़ ही रहे हैं, तो उसकी वजह से जो डेमोक्रेटिक स्ट्रक्चर है, डेमोक्रेटिक कैरिकेचर है, इट हैज बीन पेंटेड इन विविड कलर्स। और उसका एक एक्सप्लेनेशन दे रखा है, व्हेन पीपल आर फ्री टू एक्सप्लोर, टू गो इनटू द विल्डरनेस, to experiment with their life, they come up with new ideas, new knowledge, cultural richness, social reform, and उसकी उन सब आइडियाज के कारण this society जो है, it is likely to be more dynamic, tolerant and just. So ultimately यहाँ पे society and humanity, society and individuality both are interrelated. फिर यहाँ पे जो आइडियाज हैं, मिल के आइडियाज हैं, वो ऑल्सो इक्वोड बाय अदर थिंकर्स लाइक जॉन रॉल्स, हु एम्फसाइज जस्टिस एज फेयरनेस एंड गिव इंपॉर्टेंस टू पर्सनल ऑटोनॉमी। और फिर अमर्त्य सेन की बात करते हैं, वो डिफाइन फ्रीडम इन टर्म्स ऑफ कैपेबिलिटीज, कि द रियल फ्रीडम इट मीन्स पीपल हैव द अपॉर्चुनिटी टू मेक अ मीनिंगफुल लाइफ। फिर हिज आइडिया ऑफ लिबर्टी वर डीपली ह्यूमनिस्टिक, और हाउ ह्यूमनिस्टिक वर दे हमने अभी देखा है। he you know he cherished each human of having potential, having that fire to make the society, and he also enabled people to pursue their dream to shape a society in their own structure. फिर impact and contemporary relevance की बात करते हैं। So his idea has long lasting influence, जो आज भी in contemporary society में भी उसके ideas जो हैं काफी impactful हैं। First, the harm principle, so which is a key guide for deciding when a state should step in to limit individual freedom. और उसी बेसिस पे जो मॉडर्न डेमोक्रेसीज है, इवन इंडियन डेमोक्रेसी के अंदर या इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के अंदर भी जो रेस्ट्रिक्शंस विच आर प्लेस्ड ऑन स्टेट, जो जिनको हम रीजनेबल रेस्ट्रिक्शन कहते हैं, तो उसका आइडिया जो है वो इट हैज बीन बोरोड बाय दिस हार्म प्रिंसिपल। ही स्टेट इट शुड स्टेप इन सच एंड सच कंडीशन, अदर देन दैट द स्टेट, द गवर्नमेंट, इट कैन नॉट इंटरफेयर इन द इंडिविजुअल फ्रीडम। फिर आज के टाइम में there are debates which are going around hate speech, drug use, public safety, digital surveillance, कि आखिर अगर इन सब मैटर्स में गवर्नमेंट कैन इंटरफेयर। और यहाँ भी एक ही प्रिंसिपल है अगेन, कि इफ एनी ऑफ दीज थिंग्स इफ आर harming others, then the state can step in. फिर his defense of freedom of speech is foundation of constitutional democracy. फिर जो gender equality पे जो views है, first they are quite similar to that of Mary Wollstonecraft, और फिर his work the subjection of women, it is the groundwork for liberal feminism. और आज भी जो modern जो feminist scholars हैं, they start with this particular work, the subjection of women. फिर in ethics, his refined utilitarianism, qualitative utilitarianism, it it talks about both quality and quantity of happiness. And this idea is widely applied in various fields such as healthcare, public policy, artificial intelligence, spiritual life, common good. In सब में भी even administrative and governance parameter, welfare distribution, in सब में भी this qualitative utilitarianism is employed. फिर criticism की बात करते हैं. So even though John Stuart Mill was quite ahead of his time, his idea are not unchallenged. There are some critics. So first idea that his humane version of utilitarianism, it can lead to unjust outcomes. Like जैसे ये कहा गया है कि if an action benefits the majority but seriously harms the minority. So यहाँ पे उसके दो principles जो हैं they comes in contradiction. कि first अगर utilitarianism है यानी if something is benefiting the majority, the greatest number, then that idea should be implemented. क्योंकि ultimately we know कि अगर एक बस जो है वो खाई में गिर रही है एंड उनमें 100 में से जो मेजॉरिटी है 70-80 लोग जो है वी कैन सेव देम. तो आप जानते हैं कि इट्स अ ट्रेड ऑफ तो सेविंग 10-15 वर्सेस सेविंग 80-90 जो एक हाइपोथेटिकल सिचुएशन है. डोंट टेक इट अदरवाइज. या फिर दूसरा तरीका ले लेते हैं, आप लोग स्कूल में भी देख चुके हैं. They are usually, few rogue elements in class, backbenchers या फिर जो, the rowdy elements in class जो कुछ ज़्यादा ही ruckus create करते हैं. So जो teachers होते हैं वो यहाँ पे utilitarian principle use करते हैं कि उनको पता है कि if उनमें से 5-6 those rogue elements are kicked out of class, उसकी वजह से जो बाकी क्लास है it stays silent, it becomes alert कि अगर इनको भगा दिया है, अब अगर हमने कुछ किया तो है ना हमारी बारी है. सो यहाँ पे इस सिंपल एग्जांपल से यू कैन अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट यूटिलिटेरियनिज्म इज. बट ये साथ में ये ट्रेड ऑफ भी है कि वो 5-6 जो पर्सन है, इवन इफ दे आर रोग एलिमेंट एंड राउडी एलिमेंट, जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन एंड लीगल फ्रेमवर्क है इट लुक्स अदरवाइज कि दे कैन बी गिवन अ चांस टू रिफॉर्म देमसेल्फ. These people can change themselves, and at least they should be given an opportunity to undertake that reform. यानी अगर उनको बाहर निकालते हैं तो उनकी पढ़ाई वेस्ट होती. सो यही सेम प्रिंसिपल यहाँ पे जो क्रिटिसिज्म है कि अगर उन 5-6 को निकाल देते हैं देन जो बाकी क्लास है इट स्टेज साइलेंट, इट स्टेज अलर्ट, और उन सबको वो फिर जो चीज जो है पढ़ती है एंड दे benefit out of it. But उसके साथ ही those 5-6 they face the serious harm. So यहाँ पे ये false criticism है because we cannot accept this trade-off. फिर the next criticism is from the communitarian thinkers like Charles Taylor, who believe that this individual liberty, it ignores the importance of community, groups, culture and social bonds. So यहाँ पे जो second criticism है it is between individual versus groups. So because जो society में we live in group, we have cultures, we have shared customs and traditions, so we cannot advocate for the isolation of individuals. We also take the groups into account. Then the Marxists, they criticize Mill's idea by saying that, by arguing that he did not adequately address the economic inequality and class structure. कि जिस society के अंदर, if he is talking about freedom, then he also talked about providing equal opportunity, providing real opportunities for individual growth. लेकिन जिस society में हम रह रहे हैं, the capitalist society in which wealth is cornered by a few people, और उस वक्त he was also a product of the extreme form of capitalism, the imperial expansionist aggressive form of capitalism. और उस टाइम पे तो massive wealth was cornered by the capitalist society. So ऐसे में the Marxist criticism was justified कि लोगों के पास जो real opportunity to grow वो कब आएगी, जब they are freed by poverty and systemic disadvantages. फिर the feminist scholars, they even they appreciate Mill's idea, but they also criticize that a Mill during that time still judged women's progress through male-defined standards such as rationality, productivity, and public participation. So it's like यहाँ पे जो idea है, equal should be treated equally and unequals should be treated unequally. So यहाँ पे उसी को थोड़ा और अलग गलत है. Equal should be treated equally and different should be treated differently. So women, even if they are not intellectually or morally inferior or potentially inferior, they are not. But biological differences are there. अगर ऐसे कहें कि हथौड़ा मारने में आदमी और महिला की बात करें तो we know the sexual dimorphism is there. Sexual dimorphism एक बायोलॉजिकल टर्म है जिसका मतलब है कि मेल और फीमेल की जो फिजिकल स्ट्रेंथ है उसमें डिफरेंसेस वो है. ये बहुत सारे स्पीशीज में मेल एंड फीमेल के जो फिजिकल प्रोपोर्शंस हैं, है ना, उनमें डिफरेंसेस हैं. तो ये जो होमोसेपियंस के अंदर भी है, तो ऐसे में बायोलॉजिकल इंफीरियरिटी तो है. और उसमें इफ वीमेन आर जज बाय द मेल डिफाइंड स्टैंडर्ड्स, सो दैट डज नॉट सीम जस्टिफाइड. सो अगर सेम यहाँ पे जो प्रिंसिपल है, equal should be treated equally and different should be treated differently, then यहाँ पे women के लिए अलग standards हो सकते हैं. Emotional labor, care work, alternative modes of empowerment, the other nimble work, या जो भी है वो उनके अलग standard हो सकते हैं. फिर यहाँ पे some scholars note a tension in Mill's work between strong defense of liberty and his belief in utilitarian outcomes. जो यहाँ पे मैंने बताया था, the contradiction between the criticism of qualitative utilitarianism, कि when one talks about the benefit of greatest numbers, so sometimes the minorities should be sacrificed, the individual should be sacrificed. So ऐसे में who is going to sacrifice? This ambiguity is there. Should the liberty always win, individual liberty, or should individual liberty be sacrificed for greater happiness? फिर PYQ insights में देख लेते हैं कि जो harm principle है is a frequent focus in UGC net. जैसे ये क्वेश्चन है, explain the harm principle, how it defines the limit of liberty in a society. The second questions are about freedom of thought and expression. So the question, significance of freedom of expression in Mill's political thought. Then the refinement of Benthamite utilitarianism, his version of qualitative utilitarianism. So उनके बीच में differences हैं. Then his view on gender justice and his emphasis on individuality, इस पे भी questions हैं. Then his criticism, communitarian and Marxist, both of them. Then his application into the contemporary times, उसके भी questions हैं. Just assess the contemporary relevance of Mill's political ideas. Where this is it. Where conclusion that his work is widely respected for honesty, openness to criticism, and commitment to moral progress. And he tried to find a balance between freedom, equality, and social good. And his thought helps students reflect more deeply. Anyway, and this one is there. If you have found these lectures helpful, you can provide a voluntary contribution. This is my UPI and any amount will be appreciated. So this is it. कोई question है, you can drop the comments. और ये वाली चीज जो है ये मैं कह चुका हूँ बहुत बार, but no result so far. कोई नहीं, take your time. Thanks again.